50 years ago, in 1975, the fall of Saigon marked a new beginning for hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese refugees. They arrived in America with little, but carried with them resilience, hope, and a deep culture that would soon leave an indelible mark on this nation. In the late 1970s and early 80s, Vietnamese Americans worked tirelessly to rebuild their lives from scratch. In Southern California, Little Saigon emerged in Westminster, the first vibrant hub of Vietnamese life in the US, soon echoed in cities like Houston, New Orleans, and San Jose. Organizations like BPSOS began rescuing refugees adrift at sea, then grew into powerful community institutions, supporting everything from legal aid to civic engagement. Music productions like Lang Vang, Thuy Nga, and Asia Entertainment preserved the soul of the homeland, bringing Vietnamese voices, songs, and stories into living rooms across America, keeping culture alive in every note. In 1990, Jacqueline Nguyen, once a child refugee working in her family's donut shop, began her legal career, one that would lead to the federal bench as a U.S. Circuit Court judge. By the 1990s, the second generation was coming of age, and Vietnamese Americans began leaving their mark in every field. Dat Nguyen became the first Vietnamese American to play and star in the NFL, defying stereotypes and inspiring a generation. Entrepreneurs like David Chung, the founder of Huy Fong Foods, turned humble recipes into cultural icons, his sriracha hot sauce becoming a staple in kitchens across America. In the arts, filmmakers like Tony Bui and Ham Tran, and memoirists like Layli Haislip and Andrew Lam brought the Vietnamese American story to screens and bookshelves around the world. Stories of war, migration, healing, and identity. In the 2000s, Vietnamese Americans began reshaping the political landscape in more visible and powerful ways. In 2008, Anh Joseph Cao made history as the first Vietnamese American elected to Congress, a milestone once thought impossible. In California, Janet Nguyen broke barriers as the first Vietnamese American state senator and later a leader in the state assembly, championing policies that affected millions. Beyond elected office, advocates and organizers built new platforms for representation and justice, turning the traumas of the past into movements for equity, civic power, and human rights. Dr. Eugene Trinh soared beyond earthly borders, becoming the first Vietnamese American astronaut to fly in space. And survivors like Minh Dang transformed their personal stories into national advocacy, leading efforts to end human trafficking and uplift vulnerable communities. Meanwhile, in media and culture, Vietnamese Americans pushed creative boundaries. Dustin Nguyen broke ground in television, and Michelle Phan helped pioneer the influencer economy, reaching millions online with beauty, business, and empowerment. By the 2010s, achievements were accelerating. Viet Thanh Nguyen, whose family owned the second Vietnamese supermarket in San Jose, won the Pulitzer Prize for The Sympathizer, redefining the immigrant novel, refugee novel, and elevating Vietnamese American literature to global acclaim. Ocean Vuong's poetry and literary prowess gave an intimate voice to themes of family, queerness, and the legacy of war. Tom Cross edited Oscar-winning films, Lana Condor led Netflix blockbusters, and Hong Chau's performances earned Golden Globe and Oscar nominations, shining a light on nuanced Asian American characters. In business and innovation, Vietnamese Americans were leading boldly. Eric Lee, co-founder of LinkedIn, helped build one of the world's most influential tech platforms. Sarah Nguyen reimagined Vietnamese coffee for a new generation. In sports, Lilia Vu climbed the global ranks of professional golf, becoming the world's #1 in 2023. Rear Admiral Huong Nguyen became the highest-ranking Vietnamese American in U.S. Navy history, while Major General Lương Xuân Viet became the first Vietnamese-born general in the U.S. Army, both completing powerful journeys from refugee to military leader. In 2025, civil rights activist Amanda Nguyen would soar among the stars to become the first Vietnamese American woman in space. Today, Vietnamese American life is woven into the fabric of America. Death celebrations light up cities coast to coast. Little Saigons now stand not just in California, but across the country. National organizations like UNAFSA foster leadership and service among young Vietnamese Americans. Pivot uplifts Vietnamese voices in policy and politics. Viet Rise fights for immigrant justice, while the Vietnamese American Cancer Foundation leads in equity and education. Through every hardship and triumph, the story of Vietnamese Americans is not only one of survival, but of resilience, creativity, service, and profound contribution. 50 years ago, they fled with hope. Today, they lead, they create, they inspire. The Vietnamese American story is a story of a people, once displaced, now inseparable from the heart of America.